thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. For the last several years, I've spent much of my time traveling around and being in primary care offices. And I'd say without a doubt, everywhere I go, primary care physicians are overwhelmed. It's just too many demands being placed upon us. But at the same time, I'm not here to talk about the difficult or the bad things. The story you're going to hear is a story of hope. And I hope, or I desire, that when you finish this time, you're going to feel like you've been hugged a little bit. There's never been a better time to be a primary care physician. In the next few minutes, my goal is to convince you of that. Now, I'm a board-certified family doctor of 30 years, assistant clinical professor at 2 medical schools in Virginia, and my office was the first office that was NCQA recognized as a PCMH in 2009. And I'm presently president of Team Care Medicine. We're a company that trains providers and staff to be an effective team inside the exam room. But in 2003, things didn't really look very good for me. I've been in practice at that point 20 years. I was halfway through the year in 2003. My office was about $80,000 in the red. I was working 10, 12 hours a day. My staff morale was terrible. My patients were always frustrated. I was just never available. And when I was available, the visits were always rushed, and they had to wait another couple months to get another visit. And I can tell you, I hated medicine. I would have quit if I could have, but at that point I was close to 50 and I just didn't have a choice. Worst of all, I become a ghost to my wife. Whenever I was home, I was trying to get back to the computer to finish office work. Evenings, I'd get up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to try to get ready for today's work. Weekends, I was always trying to get the computer. And I just, it was a subtle change. I didn't know really how I got there until I started really realizing this isn't good. But at the same point, it had happened so slowly, I'd gotten used to it, and I didn't think I could do anything about it. But then one day in 2003, one of my nurses came to me, and I had 2 RNs who'd been with me for 20 years, and said, I'm going to have to find another job. My kids are getting close to college age. I've just got to go somewhere I can make more money. And that's what did it. That's the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I said, I'm going to do something different. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to do something different. And because it works so well, I'm here speaking to you today. Now, in family medicine, there are severe threats and there's some wonderful opportunities. The severe threat is there's a perfect storm headed directly for us in primary care as I speak. The wonderful opportunity is that primary care is being tasked to become the backbone of the U.S. healthcare system again, like it used to be. The good news is the opportunity far outweighs the threat. Now, the stresses on primary care are real. In 1991, the Halloween nor'easter was created by the remnant of Grace hurricane running into a low-pressure system off the coast of Nova Scotia. It also collided with a high-pressure system that had come up the spine of the Appalachian Mountains, and when it got up to the U.S.-Canadian border, it took a sharp right and headed toward Greenland. All 3 of these systems collided off the coast. The National Weather Service said this is a storm of epic proportions. But the people on the coast were seeing blue skies and calm seas. It didn't look too bad to them. So the Andrea Gale set sail to catch fish. This storm produced roadways 100 feet high. The worst tidal flooding they'd seen for, I think, close to a century. The Andrea Gale misjudged it. And we all know that picture. We've all seen that picture of that boat trying to get over that 10-story wave. That has come to symbolize the perfect storm to us. Now, the perfect storm here is a very good metaphor, because the perfect storm now describes converging forces coming together to create a special situation. And that's exactly what we're experiencing in primary care. There are converging forces coming together that are going to make primary care very difficult if we don't prepare. Just like you see a hurricane coming. If you don't prepare, we're in for a mess. What are these forces? Well, 30 to 40 million people just got insurance last year that are going to have access to the healthcare system. And a lot of these people haven't had healthcare for a long time. They're going to need more healthcare. The over age 65 is going to double in the next 15 years. The baby boomers are going to become a 70 million population. They're about 35 to 40. They're going to become 70 million in 15 years. A third of the physicians in primary care will retire in the next 10. And medical students aren't choosing primary care. And then you have 60% of physicians who quit today if they could. If they had the means to, they'd quit. And yet, we're getting ready to see more need in our culture than we've ever imagined coming at us in primary care. Now, what's the story, the wonderful opportunity? What's the story of the medical home? This is a tale that really creates hope and a sense of value to primary care. And where did it come from? And what the medical home has now appeared on everybody's radar screen, but where did it come from? It started back in 2005. Two doctors, two physician leaders for IBM, Dr. Sepulveda and Dr. Grundy, were sitting beside a pool on a Sunday afternoon discussing how frustrated they were with the health care they were paying for. And IBM was paying a lot of money. And yet they weren't paying for good health. They were paying to fix bad outcomes of poor health. An amputation, renal dialysis, bypass surgery. Dr. Grundy told the New York Times, we at IBM pay $1.4 billion for trash. That's quite a statement. Now, on the individual basis, if you need an amputation, that's good care, and you get it, and you do better. But if you're paying for that care, would you rather pay to fix it, to keep that diabetes well controlled, or to take care of the amputation? That was their point. That discussion on that Sunday afternoon continued. They started studying the healthcare system at the end of 2005, and they came to the conclusion it's broken. It's broken. We're paying for episodic care of poor outcomes, and we want somebody to manage the population, to take care of the population. So they started a journey to say, we're going to fix the healthcare system. That's IBM. That's business. Saying, we're going to fix healthcare. So after they started getting their plans together, they pulled 40 similar national companies like Exxon, Wells Fargo, Walgreens, said, let's talk about healthcare. When they got these 40 together, they realized that they all thought the same about healthcare. So they said, we've got some muscle here. We pay for healthcare. None of us are satisfied with it. Let's do something. So Dr. Sepulveda and Dr. Grundy went to the American Academy of Family Physicians at the end of 2005. Now at this point, there's an article that was getting ready to come out. Primary care, or the looming collapse of primary care. The American Academy had produced from the Future Family Medicine report the untenable future of family medicine. I remember I was talking to my a friend who's getting ready to go, or is just finishing up medical school and is trying to decide about residency. He said, should I do specialty work or primary care? And I said, I don't think primary care is the future. I mean, I'm struggling. I don't know what it's going to look like in 10 years. So I said, if I was you, I wouldn't go into primary care. And he didn't. But so at the end of 2005, Dr. Sepulveda and Dr. Grundy have a meeting at the American Academy's headquarters in Kansas. Now, the American Academy said, we're calling out in the dark to anybody that'll listen about the value of primary care. They get this email from Dr. Grundy, said, we'd like to talk to you about the future of primary care. So at that meeting in Kansas City, they walk in and they tell them, we want to partner with you to change the healthcare system. Dr. Epperly, one of the leaders of the American Academy, said chills went up and down his back. We want to partner with you to change the healthcare system. Now here's IBM, probably the biggest or close to the biggest company in the world, telling the American Academy you can't get anybody to listen to them about the value of primary care. So we want to partner with you to change the U.S. healthcare system and build it on a foundation of strong primary care. Dr. Epperly said that was the highest point of his professional career. So after they went to the American Academy and went to the American College of Physicians, now there's a lot of primary care in the internists, but a lot of specialists. They knew they would have to bring these guys on board, and they made an argument. You can't really have a good healthcare system unless you have strong primary care. The American College of Physicians, Dr. Barr, knew he was going to have to sell that to the specialists. You mean we're going to promote primary care? Are you crazy? We hadn't done that for 10, 20 years. But they saw the reality. Dr. Barr saw the reality of this. Primary care is good for the culture. So the American College of Physicians came on, the American Organization of Osteopaths came on, the American Academy of Pediatrics came on. That's the house of primary care. They all said, we want to join this effort to recreate U.S. healthcare in America. And then Dr. Sepulveda and Grundy said, let's have a meeting with the insurance companies. So what they did, they got 40 national businesses, they get the House of Primary Care, and then they said, we're going to bring the big insurers into this meeting, and we're going to have a change of covenant meeting. And we're going to tell them, we want something different. So at the fall of 2006, they got all the big insurance companies in America to come to this meeting. And they had these national businesses. Now we've got to understand, every dollar of health care comes from some business. Whether it's routed through government, whether it's routed through personal funds, or whether it's routed through an employer. It all comes from an employer. I'm sorry, every dollar comes from employers. It's routed in different ways, but every dollar that's paid comes from an employer. And so now, you've got the people who pay for insurance companies meeting the people who actually interface with the medical community, the insurers. And at that meeting, at the end of 2006, they said, we are going to refuse to pay for what you're giving us unless you give us something different. We don't want episodes of care, we want somebody to manage our population. The medical home concept was there, not fully crystallized yet. We want people to be able to go to strong primary care, get their primary care, prevent illness, and not end up in emergency rooms or urgent care centers. And the insurers listen. This is Dr. Grundy. After that meeting, they said, we need more power. So he went on a crusade, and he's been on this crusade for 10 years now. And he goes out 4 to 5 days a week at every group he can reach, talking about the medical home. The beginning was these 40 companies in the House of Primary Care. but it grew quickly. And they had physician associations, hospital, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, Medicare, Medicaid, the DOD, everybody joined. And in 2 years, they had 1,000 organizations saying we want strong primary care that's built around the model of the patient-centered medical home. 1,000 organizations. That was about, in 2009, I got to meet Dr. Grundy. He came to Virginia. He was speaking on the PCMH. I had heard about the PCMH in 2008. And I said, Dr. Grundy's coming. I'd heard about him. And so I said, I'm going to go listen to him. And I remember sitting there stunned. Somebody's talking about the value of primary care, and somebody's talking about the value of the doctor-patient relationship. I had never heard that in 20 years. I had never heard that articulated, but as a 20-year physician in family medicine, I had come to understand, for my patients, nobody can compete against me. Because I know them, they trust me, and I can engage them because of relationship. And if you don't have relationship, you can't do any of that. You can't know them, you don't trust them, and you can't get them engaged. Every time a patient goes to emergency, they come, doctor, do I really have to do that? Is the doctor just doing that because they want to do more tests or to cover themselves? Do I really have to do this, what they order? But they trust you. So I met him, when I heard that, I said the first time I've ever heard academics really support primary care and the value of the doctor-patient relationship. I went up there after that meeting and talked to him for a while, and now he's become a very good friend. But I'll tell you, he is the one responsible for changing this whole concept of a medical center, of a medical home, into reality. He's been on this crusade now for a decade. Now, they formed the Patient-Centered Primary Care Collaborative out of these 1,000 organizations. Beginning was 40, now it's become 1,000. So President Obama gets elected in 2008, and he wins the election because people want better health care. That's what threw it to President Obama, was health care. People were so dissatisfied with what they're getting. So what the White House did was start having these open discussions, roundtable discussions. They're inviting physician leaders from all over the country to come to these and hear about from physicians, how do we treat how do we fix the crisis? How do we bring down the cost? How do we insure people? How do we give them something they can afford? Well, Dr. Grundy was at all those roundtable discussions, along with the PCPCC. Now, you've got to remember, this is a pro-business plan. IBM was afraid of what was going to happen in their future if they couldn't control costs. They couldn't compete on a world level. So they built this model around primary care and the medical home. And now the White House is asking them to come in and talk, as many other physician leaders around the country. And the White House understands what they're saying makes sense. A good health care system has to be built on primary care. And the medical home is a model that primary care can build itself around. So what the White House did was take the medical home and put it in the payment reform. The doctors will get paid better for medical home. And they instituted accountable care organizations which are totally dependent upon robust medical homes. If accountable care organizations do not have good medical homes, they're functional and efficient, and there's a lot of leakage to emergency room and a lot of unnecessary hospitalizations, those ACOs are going to crumble. So the ACA is a literal mandate for primary care based upon payment reform. You'll never hear that. All you hear about is the top layer, 30 or 40 million people getting insurance. But the next layer, payment reform, is a very pro-business, very healthy financial model to bring down the cost of health care. It came from Dr. Grundy, Dr. Sepulveda, and IBM. IBM assumed the role of being champion primary care, and they stuck to it. That's the story where the medical home came from. This is a book. This is a book I wrote. It's about this story. It's on Kindle. We're doing a special right now for 99 cents. You can get it, read it. It's at Amazon. But you know, what Dr. Grundy has done is restructure all of U.S. healthcare around primary care. I think he's going to win the Nobel Prize for Medicine. This guy, by his untiring effort, has set the stage for what we're going to see in this next decade. Now, is this an American idea, medical home? Actually, America has come to the table very late in this process. And they said, well, why were we so late? Now, it really started for us. We took a journey that the rest of the world didn't take. How many of y'all were around when the E&M codes came to being in the late, mid-'80s? You know, that changed our life. And you heard it, but it took 20 years to wash out to where we are now. The E&M codes valued procedures over thinking. We're going to pay a lot for procedures. We're not going to pay much for thinking. So a colonoscopy, you can get $2,000 or $3,000 for a half-an-hour procedure. For 40 minutes of thinking, you'll get $100. That set the stage. The primary care was carved out and made weaker than the rest of medicine in America. I couldn't figure out, why on earth if I'm struggling, I don't see other doctors struggling for not primary care. It all came back to E&M codes. I couldn't afford the staff anymore. So I had to start cutting back on staff. That meant I had to start doing non-physician work. That meant access to me became very difficult. Where I used to see 30, 35 patients a day, I was down to 18 or 20. I went on the EMR 98. And by the time I made my change in 2003, I was in chaos. Primary care wasn't getting paid much. My administrative and bureaucratic responsibilities had gone up. And I was spending a third of my time dealing with the EMR. But it all came down to the fact of the E&M codes. Now, what Europe did, they valued primary care. They never got away from the value of primary care. And they knew a strong healthcare system cannot be built without strong primary care. Denmark's an example. 15 years ago, they instituted the medical home. There were 127 hospitals in Denmark when they instituted the medical home. But they made it a rule that the medical home, you pick where you want to go. You pick. But that's where you go get your care, and then that primary care physician will send you to the specialist when necessary. And they had the information technology and the health exchanges that they basically had access to records 24/7. They had a good night call, so access was there. So that patients didn't have to go to the emergency room. It has worked. Denmark has the #1 satisfied patient in Europe with their health care. They spend 5 to 6% of their money of health care, 5 to 6% of the GDP on health care. That's equal to having a premium of $200 or $300. What would that do to our culture if we gave our culture premiums of $500 instead of paying $1,500? And the hospitals went from 127 to 22. They went from a hospital-centric system to an outpatient-centric system that was much healthier. That's what primary care does. Instead of cutting the leg off, you take care of the diabetes. Instead of doing bypass, you protect the heart. Only primary care can do that. But you know, this whole thing with money, of the E&M codes, well, primary care is not that valuable. Well, the real value of medicine is to do bypass. The problem is bypass costs $50,000. So it's wrecked the economy, and it's made 40 million people at least be underinsured. I think it's close to 80 million people underinsured because insurance is so expensive. But Europe is way ahead of us. and understanding the value of primary care. We're starting to catch up now with the work of Dr. Grundy and Dr. Sepulveda. So that's another step. There's never been a better time to be a primary care physician. Culture needs it, desperately needs it. Business is demanding it. Business knows their future is threatened if we don't get the cost under control. And now government has mandated it through the ACA. And you see that Mustang? That came out in the early 60s. That's gone through 18 iterations. And is now, one of the favorite cars of America. If it hadn't changed, I don't think it would be loved like it is. Primary care hasn't changed since we left the house call in the 40s and 50s and 60s. The basic interaction of the physician and the patient has not changed. You could take a physician from 1960 and put him in the exam room, and if he knew the meds and he knew the diseases, or she did, they could treat the patient just like they did in 1960. I would say if Ford didn't change the Mustang, Ford would be in trouble with that car. I said, what? And the whole world around primary care has changed. We got patients getting older, we got this EMR we don't know how to deal with, and you've got insurance companies you have to interface with, and yet we still see the patients the same way we did in 1960. So again, the question, what business would survive if there's no innovation in the midst of all this change around us? That's a big reason we're in the trouble we're in. Now, any innovation has to go for the triple aim. That's just good care, makes sense. Improve the health of the culture, improve the health care you're given, and bring down costs. It's just gotten so extreme in America that we're desperate to get it done. But this has to happen. And it can't be just one thing. Well, we're just bringing down the cost, but the patients get lousy care. No, you got to do all three at the same time if we're going to fix it. And only primary care can do that. Don Berwick introduced triple aim in 2008 in a paper from the IHI. And because medicine got so much, there was so much money, something like this could just be washed away and not thought about. It's just good medicine. Bring down costs, improve care, improve the health care you're given. But the triple aim has to be involved in any innovation if we're going to fix it. Now these are the three initiatives. Now I'm going to talk, what did I do in 2003 when I was broken, working 12 hours a day, seeing 18 patients a day, couldn't pay the bills, that I end up here talking to you. Now remember, in 2003, my office is a shipwreck. In 2009, I was the first office in Virginia recognized as a PCMH. 6 years, go from shipwreck to leader, and as far as just the offices. Well, these three initiatives are what we did. You have to transform the inside of your exam room visit experience. I knew my exam room was my bottleneck. I had patients I couldn't see. They were going to urgent care. They were going to emergency room. They were going to other doctors. And I wanted to see them. I went into primary care to see my patients. And I couldn't. So I said, if I can ease up this pressure on the bottleneck of the exam room, I can see more patients. No hint, no desire to increase quality. Just keep quality where it is. But I got to see more patients. And I knew the number one thing that slowed me down in seeing patients is now that my patients had a lot of chronic disease, 10 or 15 meds, to get their data was 10, 20, 25 minutes. And then I had all the other things to do. So if I said to myself, if I can teach my staff to collect data, that's the longest part of the visit. It's not hard, but it's the most valuable part of the visit, but it's also the longest. I can cut that longest part of the visit out of my work effort, go in there and receive that information just like a med student gives it to me, and then take off, change that data, fill in any holes as necessary, and then do the pertinent physical and start build my decisions, start doing my thinking. So the goal was to teach my nurses to collect that data and then to present it. But my other goal was I never wanted to sit down in the emergency room. I mean, the EMR. It took me 5 years to realize I didn't go to med school to work that EMR. So if I can teach them where to put that data, and I don't have to sit down, then I can focus on the patient. And then the last thing is to become the medical home. But the first two things, see, I did these first two things, then I heard about the medical home in 2007, and I said, we're doing it. Because once productivity went up, I could have more staff. We could start, I went on the EMR 98, we had population reports and disease registry. Now I had the staff to work on. And when I heard about the medical home, I said, I'm already doing it. It's just good care. The medical home is good care, it's management of the population. But I say if you try to do that without building a team inside the exam room, it's a weight around your neck. It will make you sink. It's just more things to do. But once you build this inside the exam room team, and you get yourself off the EMR and focus on the patient, then you can become a medical home, a very functional medical home. So I'm going to give you this video. It's just a 3-minute clip. Now, you're going to see Karen. She'd worked with me about 7 years at this point. It probably took her 2 to get this good. But I tell you, watch what you do. This is what I'd always dreamed about. I just didn't know it was possible.
Okay, let me just open your chart. I see you're here for your diabetes follow-up visit, but it says here you're having a cough also?
Yeah, well, actually about 2 weeks I've had a cough. It started up in the nose and the head, and then it just went down to the chest.
Okay, well then we'll start with the cough and then we'll get to the diabetes. Dr. Anderson's going to need a few details about that cough. So in that case, I have a couple questions for you. It looks like you'll be coming up on a colonoscopy in about 6 months. And after reviewing your chart, there's no other procedures that are required today except for the repeat chest x-ray and the blood work.
Okay.
So that's all the questions I have for you now. When I leave, if you would take off your socks and shoes so Dr. Anderson can do a foot exam.
Absolutely.
Great, I'll go get him and I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Hey, Clint.
Hi, Dr. Anderson.
Well, thanks for coming in. Sure nice to see you.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, Karen. Tell me what you know about Cliff.
All right. He has a history of asthma as a child, but has not needed medication for several years. He denies fever, chills, sweats, no sore throat, no shortness of breath, nausea, vomiting, or heartburn. He was never a smoker. He offers no complaint of leg pain or swelling, and he's not tried any medications at home. There is a note on your care plan that you wanted this patient to repeat a chest x-ray in 6 months, which is now, and he's aware of that. So for today, he's only due for fasting lab work, his foot exam, and the chest x-ray.
Okay. And actually, now that I think about it, this cough has really only been about a week. I just think it seems like 2 weeks. But
Okay.
I'll make that correction in your chart.
But no shortness of breath, no chest pain, no fever,
no.
and the cough's not getting worse.
No.
So I think you're doing great. So come on, get up on the table, and I'll take a look at you. You go ahead and stare. It looks like you're in the picture.
Okay.
One thing for sure, once you get the x-ray, make sure you call us if we haven't called you within 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
I don't, no hurry to get it next week or 2, but if you hadn't heard from us within 2 or 3 days of you getting it, call us. I need to know for sure you've gotten that resolved.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Otherwise, everything looks great.
I just want to take a moment and go over the plan that Dr. Anderson has developed for you. So here's a script for the chest x-ray. I've also included directions to the diagnostic center closest to your home, and you can get that done as soon as you can.
Okay.
As Dr. Anderson discussed, we're going to do some lab work for you today. So, do you have any questions for me?
No, that's clear. Thank you.
All right, well now I'll show you to the lab. It was nice seeing you. We'll see you in 6 months.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, what are the results of having this kind of team? Now, what this is an employee pool to specifically train for primary care. Now, in primary care, you can take anybody, take them out of the hospital, take them out of the school, take them out of, they've been in, raising kids for the last 10 years, now they want to get back. There's no skill set for primary care. Take an OR nurse and put her in the operating room without a skill set. What would that do? We've done that in primary care. But if you build employees with skill sets that are specific for primary care, you change primary care. You change access. You change quality. So when we did this, we started in 2003, by 2005, I knew we'd hit the mark, but I mean, it just continued to grow over the next 5 years. The quality increases. Remember I said I did this to make more money. I was $80,000 in red. I had to see more patients. But quality is the first thing I realized. I started teaching them how to collect this data, and they had more time. They started getting more data. One thing I always wanted to do was, every year I'd have somebody just drop dead. No indication. I looked at this chart, no warning. They just dropped dead. I said, I sure wish there's some way I could find it, but there's no way. But I always want to ask patients over 50, do you have any chest pain, shortness of breath? Do you get any discomfort in your jaw, your neck, your shoulder when you're cutting grass, vacuuming, carrying groceries? I never had time. 40% of the population over 60 has chest pain. You can't open that can of worms if you want to get out of that room. Better not do it. If I don't know, I'm not responsible. That's not good patient care, but that's what I live by. I asked 100 doctors, would you ask if they didn't come in for chest pain and something else, would you ask about chest pain? No way. But now I have nurses collecting data, or medical assistants collecting data. So everybody over 50 gets asked 3 cardiovascular questions. So Jack came in about 4 years ago. Jack's a policeman. I've seen him. He loves fishing. We love to talk about fishing. I see his wife. They tell me about their trips. Well, Jack tells me, he tells the nurse he's in to get a lesion on his scalp evaluated. And so she goes through that. And then she asked him the 3 cardiovascular questions. He said, I've gone up steps twice in the last 2 weeks, and I got this burning right here. But when I got to the steps, it went away, and then I forgot about it. So I said, when I came in the room and she presented the data to me about Jack, I said, Jack, you go up the steps, you get it, it goes away? He said, yeah. I said, Jack, we're going to have to stretch you. Well, Jack had a left main. He was my drop dead for that year. And every time Jack came in the office after that, he was smiling. He loved us. He comes in to get a lesion on the scalp evaluated, and we tell him he needs heart surgery. That's robust primary care, and all it comes down to is having a staff that's trained specifically for primary care. It frees the doctor up to focus on the patient. It frees the doctor up to have time to see all of his or her patients. So quality went up. That's just one of many reasons. Same-day patient access. I was seeing when I was doing this by myself, I was seeing 18, 20 patients a day. With 2 nurses or MAs who could do this with me, I was seeing 30, 35, and 40 patients a day. 18 of those were urgents. I could see same-day access to 18, and we wouldn't turn away our patients. But we went into every day with 18 open slots for urgents. And you want fun in medicine? See your urgents. You want to make money in medicine? See your urgents. Don't send them. Don't let them go anywhere else. That's where the fun, the pleasure, and the quality goes up. Because you, the doctor that knows your patient, will give the best care and engage the patient. Satisfaction went to the top of the system. Revenue, the first year I did this, the revenue went up. The first full year, the collections went up $100,000. Collection. You can pay for a lot of staff increase. I went from 1.5 to 2.5 to 3.5. By year 3, our collections were up $200,000. But remember, I'm giving the best care I've ever given. Our HEDIS measures were at the national 90th percentile for all measures that we were getting checked for. Colorectal screening, mammography rates, all 9 diabetic standards. That's because of staff. That's not because of intelligence. It's because of having staff. Primary care is so shamefully understaffed today It's hurting the culture, it's hurting the physicians, it's hurting the staff. Because it's miserable to work when you're understaffed. Staff morale, we were the top office in our system with 350 physicians. They loved working this. Meaningful work. I could tell the nurse, you saved his life. You saved his life, and I meant it. And she knew it was true. If I'd done it my old way, he could have easily have died. I had a happier wife. I wasn't always trying to get back to the computer. I stopped getting up early in the morning. I fell in love with medicine again because now I was using my education, going from room to room to room, receiving data, making sense out of data, making pertinent physical, and developing diagnosis and treatment plan. I'd never go back. And Dr. Kolscher, who was the architect of the ACA, remember I said the ACA put the medical home in payment reform. The very foundation of the ACA is this medical home payment reform. Dr. Kolscher, he wasn't convinced. He started going and talking to doctors who were doing the medical home, and they told him over and over and over again, we'd never go back. It's good care. It's what we went to medical school to do. It's what the patient needs. When the Army gave us a contract in 2010, they came by our office, they happened upon our office in 2008. The Surgeon General done a survey. The dependents said, we hate Army primary care. He said, we're going to fix it. They sent a doctor through Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, just to look at what was different. They came upon my office by coincidence. So this guy has got his MD, his Master's of Health Administration, and his MBA. I mean, he's educated to the hill. And he's watching me work, watching the nurses work. He gets all of our metrics. It's 2008. We had a lot of metrics. He walks out, his parting comment was, when I go back to the Pentagon and tell them what I've seen, they're going to say I'm high on drugs and get back to normal. Well, they called me in 2010 and said, come teach us how to do this. So I tried to do half-time Army and half-time office, but you can't manage a population half-time. You can do urgent care, but you can't manage primary care panel half-time. So in 2011, I pulled out of clinical medicine. In that moment, or that couple months when I started saying goodbye to my patients, and then some of the ladies would start crying. Now I was expecting that, some of the older ladies I've seen for 20, 30 years. But then some of the men started crying. And then I started crying. And then it would hit me. One day, I'm there and I'm seeing this going on. And I realized I had been given the best medicine has to offer. No discipline in medicine gives you 20 or 30 years of friendship. None. And I didn't realize that until I'm saying goodbye to friends of 20 or 30 years. And that's why I'd say there's never been a better